Have you been confused because casting directors, when they give you feedback in the room, they said they want you to give it a beat and you weren't sure what exactly they meant? Or maybe you just want to make sure you're prepared for when you go in front of a casting director for an audition. Let's go over some of the most commonly used terms that you'll hear from your casting director, and you should also be hearing from your acting coach. So the first one is beat, pause. So usually what that's going to mean is really just that it's just going to be a pause. But sometimes it's just a pause because there needs to be a pause in the scene before you respond or before you take an action. Other times though, there's a beat because there is still a pause, but there's a change in the intention of the scene. So you kind of got to read into the scene and figure out what exactly it is that they're looking for. Is it just a pause, or is it also pause and now there's a shift in the tone? Okay. The next one, button. So button is something that you're going to hear in comedy pieces, especially whether it's TV or film, but especially commercials, as commercials do tend to be more funny. Now, this is something you're going to put at the end of the scene. For commercials, usually they are okay with improv. In fact, a lot of times they'll tell you, this is just the general layout of the scene, and you just kind of portray that in whatever words come out of your mouth, come out of your mouth. But when you have an audition, though, for film, and especially for television, they're going to give you lines. Well, actually, sometimes I shouldn't say that, because I've had auditions where I had no lines. But when they give you lines, especially for TV, do not add to that, even at the end. Okay, so at the end, what you're doing is really just a reaction. So maybe something's happening over here and your reaction is, and it's just that quick. And that's the thing too, a button's got to be quick, but do not add words to it, because TV shows, the writers, they've spent so much time crafting the words to make sure that it flows well. And sometimes it's even gone through the studios, and the studios came back and said, no, you need to change this line, or this needs to get, we want it in this way. So when you have a button, again, it's something that goes at the end of the scene. Your reaction to it needs to be quick. Don't add lines to it unless the casting director has said that you can add words to it. You can always ask if they ask you to put a button on it. But ideally, it's really just going to be a quick reaction. Now, don't force it. If you can't think of something how you would naturally respond to that, then don't do it, because we can tell when it's forced. It feels ugly. You're going to feel ugly inside because you just push something out there so that way you could do it. That's not to say sometimes, don't take risks and trust yourself. But if you really can't think of anything, then you can't think of anything. That's okay. All right. Do less. This usually we get this direction because we are overacting. Look, it happens to all of us. It happens to me. I hate when it does. But we need to then find ways to make it more subtle, right? To be more calm, more grounded. And sometimes it's about being more intimate, which means you need to listen better. Sometimes we're in such a hurry to just get our lines out that you weren't really listening to what the other person said, and it shows, right? So sometimes doing less is that. Be more present in the scene. Another thing that doing less can mean is if you have a challenge like me, don't let my coloring fool you. I am definitely of Mexican and indigenous descent, and my hands like to go everywhere, as well as my head. I'm very expressive in my everyday life. But when it comes to Western productions, that's not what they're looking for. And so doing less might mean your hands aren't going everywhere. There was an audition I had. It was for a commercial in English and Spanish. I did end up booking it, but what I had to do is I had my hands like this, and I had it in my lap, and I was squeezing them the whole time because they wanted to fly just everywhere. They did. That's what my hands want to do, because as you could tell from this video, that's what my hands want to do. The other thing with doing less is sometimes your head is moving around a lot and it's very expressive. But again, with Western production, it's really about the stillness. So maybe you're still looking, but it's going to be like a quick look away and not be big, oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. It's much smaller, it's smaller, it's more grounded, it's more focused. So sometimes the doing less is also an actions type of thing. Next is dummy sides. So this is going to happen for more popular projects, right? Whether it's a superhero series or a very popular TV show that's going on right now, and they just don't want spoilers to leak out. So they're going to give you sides, which is basically the script or dialogue that has it's not that it has nothing to do with the project. It's just that scene, those words that you're going to learn will not be in the production. So they're just going to give you something that's going to help you or allow you to portray the essence of the character, either where the character is now or where the character is going, if they already know the arc of the character. One of the biggest things to remember, though, is if you do book an audition and you were given dummy sides, to realize you're going to be getting a whole new list of words to memorize. So just be mindful of that. If you're going for a big project, that's frequently will give out dummy sides, and your agent should be able to tell you that. Just be prepared that you're going to have to start memorizing something quickly. So as soon as you get it, it's going to be completely different from what you were given. All right. Get lost in the moment a little more. So part of that is going to be because basically your acting is showing. And what that means is that the world really isn't that real for you, right? So you need to visualize more what's going on. You need to see that park bench or that person just coming in or the car accident that just happened. You need to see those aspects in your mind more. And then it just becomes much more believable. Sometimes it can also mean just to let yourself feel. One of the challenges I had is I auditioned for a commercial that was about cancer research. And it was within a month of my dad passing of pancreatic cancer. And one of the things that I actually didn't do is, in terms of allowing myself to feel, I think it was still too raw and I felt too much. And I even said that in the audition. But you can't be afraid to let yourself also feel, right? So sometimes getting lost in the moment is just allowing yourself to be present, but also feel the feelings, whether it's anger, joy. It's okay to feel those things, right? But to be fully present in that scene. Okay. Just try it again or do something different. So there could be a few reasons why casting said this. They're human beings. And sometimes the reason why casting said just try it again is because they weren't paying attention. We all have that happen, right? Where someone's talking to you and you're like, oh my goodness, I just tuned out for like 2 minutes. So it might have happened that, they weren't paying attention. And so they want to give you another shot because they realized they had tuned out. So they're going to ask you to do it again. When that happens, just do something similar, just slightly different, right? Give it your take. And sometimes they will ask you that because they want you to actually do something just a little different, see a little variation to it, how much you're married to it. Because remember, when you are on set, there's times where it might have been written a certain way, but that morning when you step on set, you might get a new set of sides and it has new directions. And suddenly what you practiced all night is no longer what you're going to be portraying. Or maybe when you get on set, the director, you guys work out the scene and you filmed it and the director's like, no, that just didn't work. And he comes up with a different idea. And now you got to follow through with what his vision now is for the scene or how it's changed. Or maybe sometimes a line will just be flown in like, oh, the writers just changed this. And so now you got to adapt to that. So that also can show that you have some adaptability. That's been one of the biggest challenges with going to self-tape is that we have the opportunity to film multiple takes and send in our best. And one of the challenges that started happening when people would book is that productions were realizing that, oh, wow, this actor didn't get it on the first take or the second take. They needed multiple takes to get there. Or they're very much married to this specific way to do it. So doing it a little different can also show casting like, oh, okay, they can take direction and they can pivot on that moment to give something else a little different. And sometimes they give you that feedback of just to try it again or do something a little different because they can tell you're nervous. They can see your nerves, whether it's in your throat or your actions. They can just tell that your nerves got the best of you, but they want to see your best. And that's one of the things to remember is that casting really is rooting for you. They are your friends. They want to find that next phenomenal actor, right? They'd love to be able to say, oh, I discovered this person. I was there when they auditioned for this part and whatnot. So they want you to do well. And so sometimes they'll say like, hey, do it again or try something a little different, because they can tell the nerves got the best of you and they want you to try to put your best self foot forward. All right. Let the words do more of the work for you. Sometimes, again, that can also mean that you are overacting. And so they want you to be more subtle, more restrained, to dial it back. Again, grounded, intimate, that you're listening, you're present. And it's really about when you're letting the words do the work for you, sometimes you're getting too much in the way. And so when you dial it back, you can really let the author or the writer's intentions come out. And that's what really all of this is. Sometimes that is very challenging, especially as actors, because we don't always get the best scripts in the world. I know I had a really hard time memorizing my dialogue on this one production, and I thought it was just me. I'm getting really bad at memorizing. I used my favorite memorization technique, which is memorizing backwards to forward, and that didn't work. If you're curious on what I'm talking about, I'll link it up above so that you can check that out. And I ended up going to another technique where you write the first letter of each word, and that helps you memorize it. And that was able to help me solidify it more. Afterwards, a group of us would go out to dinner and we'd talk and whatnot. And one of the leads actually told me, he's like, oh no, Lisa, it's not because of you and your memorization skills. This was just hard dialogue. It wasn't how people would naturally speak. And I remember feeling that frustration when I'd read the lines, because I'm like, this is not how my character would talk. She would never say this. This makes no sense, especially for her age and whatnot. Anyways, so that can be challenging to let the writer's intention come out, but that is one of the things that we need to do, is make sure we step aside so that way their intentions can come out. So what are some of your favorite phrases that you've heard casting tell you, or what are some that I'm missing? And also, if you're finding this video helpful, click like and consider subscribing. All right, so the next one is make the words your own and bring more of you into the role. So making the words your own and bringing more of you into the role. So a lot of times is that, one of the things that can happen is that you rehearse it so much that you're just very rigid and you've lost the emotion in it. And it's just words that you're regurgitating. But they want to see you. They want to see your version of this. And specifically, like, how would you, Thomas, Layla, Nayeli, how would you say these words? Make it your own. Like, how would you say it if you just came back from work and you were frustrated because your kids didn't do their homework like they said they were going to, or what have you? How would you say it? Make the words your own and bring more of you into the role. Because again, that's what's really going to make each thing unique, or should make it unique. One of the hardest things for casting is you have actors come in and they do it almost the exact same way, but it wasn't them. They want to see you, because that's what's going to make it, that's what gives it the flavor, is the essence of you. So putting some of you into it. So make the words more of your own and bring you into the role. Just let you come out, let you shine through. They want to see you. All right. Make character more loving and empathetic. So sometimes this happens because we're given a character where we may have a moral objection with them, which is can be challenging, especially for those of us whose character types are gonna be where you're the murderer, you're the child molester, you're the villain, you're always the backstabber, you're the thief. Things like this can be really hard to portray, and you're reading this script and like, oh, I hate this person, and that can come out. We can't hate our character. The villain in a movie doesn't see himself as the villain. He thinks he's the hero. And you need to see that person or that character in that way too. What is redeeming about that character? How do they actually feel about themselves? And sometimes it is, they're beating themselves up, but that's, there's still a way to do it though, where you're still where you don't hate the character. And that, again, that's usually where this tends to come up with, where the character you're portraying, you have a moral objection to, and you're like, oh, I can't. I know it's hard. Especially like if that's your character type. Like I am not a leading actor or leading actress, so I play character types. But what I tell people is you can't tell the story of Jesus without Judas. Someone has to play Judas. You need that character in there in order to tell the full story of what happens. And the same thing with some of these other stories. You know, you need those villains, those people who do these despicable things. You just can't hate your character, because if you do, it's going to come out and that's not what they're looking for in that. You can hate what they do and their actions, but you cannot hate your character. You have to dig deep and figure out, why would they do that? What is it that they've been through? What happened to them into the past that made them, this is their only response back, or make it logical. Why is this the logical response? This is absolutely what you should do. But again, like making the character more loving and empathetic, you got to see their humanity, which again can be really hard when you have these characters that have they're doing for certain actions that you find morally despicable. So can be a little challenging. Okay. Pick up the pace. So this is when we want to give more space for the other actors in the scene. One thing to remember too is also in comedies, it tends to be quick. So just realize when you have dialogue, don't talk. Well, I tend to talk fast as it is. I'm actually working on slowing myself down. But in comedy, it's much more fast paced. So sometimes they say pick up the pace because it needs to be quick. That's just how the humor is able to come out and catch people off guard. Just like we're talking like in everyday life, right? We just go back and forth. There aren't pauses after a sentence, right? Like, I went to the store this morning to buy some potatoes. When I came back home, I realized I forgot the milk. So then I ran out of the house and went back to the store to buy milk. We don't talk like that. In real life, you'd say, oh, this morning I went to the store to buy potatoes, and when I got home, I realized I forgot the milk, so then I ran out of the house to go back to the store to buy milk. Like, we speak in basically a run-on sentence. So sometimes picking up the pace is because we've put pauses in where there shouldn't be pauses. Pause should really only come after a comma, not after a sentence. Sometimes, so you're allowing more space for also the other actor. I was in a production where one of my scene partners took forever, and dear God, it was torture. And then the worst part too was then I didn't feel like I actually had the space to fully live in the moment for my character, because this person, he took up so much time. When it came to me, I'm like, I felt the pressure. I'm like, I need to keep this thing going. Like this took forever just to get to here. Like we have a time that we have to go on. So it does also allow like the other actor space to be in the scene too. So it's just something to be mindful of, unless that is your character. Like maybe they have Alzheimer's or they're older, so they do take more time with their words. That does happen, but you definitely want to make sure you have space so that way the other actor has time to listen and react in the scene too. But you want to make sure that if you do pick up the pace, that it's just coming out more quickly, but you're not changing your intention about the scene, right? You're not changing the intention. You're not changing the wants that you had in the scene. That all was good. It just needs to come out more quickly, and it's just going to flow and it's just going to look natural. All right, raise the stakes a little bit. So this is what I know I hear in my acting class, at least. Raise the stakes a little bit. It's basically, it's got to mean more to you. Like what's happening in the scene has to be more important. Now, sometimes it can be because of the type of show that it's going for. Like Nickelodeon or a Disney show, it's going to be bigger. Although they are going towards more of a grounded reactions, but still, the stakes are bigger. It's always like, oh my gosh, this is going to happen and my life is going to be ruined, kind of a thing, right? So sometimes the expressions need to be slightly bigger, but sometimes also it's because you need to feel it more. It needs to mean more to you. Like, this is life and death. This is important to your character. Because regardless of whether your character is seen as a series regular or the lead, your character is the lead in their own story. So this is important to them, whatever it might be. Like, they lost their eraser, or the bread wasn't sliced, so I still had the crust on it. Whatever it is, you got to raise the stakes more. It's got to mean more to you. So sometimes that's also letting yourself feel that more, which also can mean sometimes it's hard to do that because we're judging the character, right? It's like, come on, the crust on your bread, like, just eat the stupid slice of bread. But for this character, it's a big thing. Maybe it's a texture thing or what have you. Anyway, so yeah, you want to make sure what's at stake for the character. And it doesn't have to be some big scene or crazy scene like that's going on, or it's dangerous, but it's just, it's got to be more important to the character. Okay. Another one is stay ahead of the lines. So sometimes this can happen when we are also like going a little bit too slow. There's too much of a pause. So don't take a second to say the line. It's coming back to like not adding pauses where there shouldn't be. So you pause after a comma, but at the end of a sentence where there's a period, you're not pausing. You're going to go straight into the next thing, unless it says pause or beat, or you've been given that feedback to like add that in. Now, sometimes you say something and then in the middle of it, like you realize, wait a minute, you have like a shift in your brain, like your character does. And so sometimes you will have that. But if you're giving that direction of stay ahead of the lines, it's because the pause is either too long, or it's too big of a break, or you put the pause in a place where it shouldn't be. Okay. And we trust people that speak right away. Like, right, if I asked you a question like, oh, what's your favorite kind of ice cream? If you said, my favorite ice cream is chocolate. Like, why did it take you so long to say that? Because if my favorite ice cream is chocolate, I should be able to say that right away. But the fact that it took so long makes me less trustworthy. So the same thing, too, with staying ahead of the lines. If you're taking too long, it's also making it harder for us to trust that character. Now, sometimes you want to do that because they are the sketchy, shady person. But if you're getting this feedback from casting, it's because they need you to stay ahead of the lines. And this isn't a case where you're going to put those kind of pauses in. Okay. Take the air out of it. Again, coming to adding the pauses. Sometimes it's adding pauses at the end of the sentence. We got to do it much more quickly. You're going to hear this term a lot, especially when it comes to comedy, because again, it's fast-paced, or it's faster-paced. Not necessarily at the speed at which I tend to talk. But yeah, so if you're taking the air out of it, you're probably adding pauses again where you shouldn't be, and it's most likely happening at the end of the sentence where there's the period. Just go straight from that into the next one. Let's see. Okay, and the last one I have for you guys is throw it away, simplify. Let the words do the work for you. So again, if you're coming to something like this, I hate to tell you, you're overacting again. Let the words do the work for you. Sometimes you're not confident in the word and you're trying to like put pauses in there where there shouldn't be pauses. Simplify, just bring it back down, more natural, more grounded. Again, the hands are going places, or your hand. So you just want to make sure that when you're throwing it away, you're just making it more simple. Oy, that was bad. Throwing it away. Simplify. Basically, you just want to say one sentence right after the other without pausing. It's basically just how we're going to work. It's how we speak in real life, right? So again, throw it away, simplify, let the words do the work for you. As you can tell, there are many ways that casting and your acting teachers will tell you like, hey, stop doing the pauses. But it's part of things that we need to know. Because again, we're trying to mimic real life, and in real life, like I'm talking right now, we just tend to flow back and forth, right? If I ask a question, you're listening, you already have a response, probably even before I even finished my question. All right, I hope this was helpful, and I hope you guys are getting out there and creating your own content.